And their whole method, when they feel like someone's getting tense and they feel like about to get into a fight, one of them just gets naked.
I love
One of them
it.
just gets naked and they do a cartwheel. That's just how they break the tension. And so they have an
Fantastic.
agreement between the both of them. It's like, if one of us has you cannot fight with your spouse when they're naked doing a cartwheel in your living room. But they're
I'm
like, hey,
going
it
to
works
have
every
to
time.
try it just to see if that works. I mean, it gets a little tricky when you have teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, what the f*** is mom doing? Naked doing a cartwheel in the kitchen.
Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, the place where high-performing men are empowered to reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness while enhancing their career success. You see, in a world full of noise, burnout, and mediocrity, we believe what's missing is courageous and compassionate leadership in the home, because when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. You see, this isn't just a podcast. It's a movement for men who refuse to settle for less in their families, in their focus, and their future. We are curse breakers and we are legacy makers. I am your host, Mitchell Osmond, and I'm honored that you've chosen to invest your most valuable asset, which is your time, with me today. Now let's get into it. Well, welcome to the Dad Nation podcast. Listen, I am so thankful for all of you who are listening in from the different parts of the world that you're listening in. And if you're here listening to this episode, you are fortunate. You are blessed to be able to take in this conversation. It's one that I've been looking forward to having. And I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And so I want to tell you a little bit about our guest today. Her name is Andrea Dindinger. We talked about how to say her name before I pushed record. So I got it. She's a San Francisco-based licensed marriage and family therapist with over 20 years of experience in helping individuals and couples build meaningful, fulfilling relationships. She specializes in navigating challenges like addiction, grief, emotional disconnection, and guiding people to reconnect with themselves and what they truly want. Andrea holds a master's degree in psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies and is trained in somatic therapy and brain spotting, which are approaches that help people process trauma and better understand the connection between the mind and the body. And I love this. Her work has been featured in major publications, including People, HuffPost, Real Simple, Very Well Mind, and Fatherly. So that's a little bit about Andrea. Welcome to the show. Andrea, looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
Thanks so much, Mitchell. Me too.
Yeah. So we were just chatting off before we hit record and swapping a little bit of details about one another. And it looks like we're very passionate about the same things. And I love to just kind of get a bit of an understanding of who these people are, because there's a probability that maybe these guys don't actually know who you are, haven't heard of you yet. So tell me a little bit more about you and more specifically, like, what got you into this world of therapy? And I'm also interested in why you especially focused in on marriages and couples and things. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I like to say that I was born a therapist. When I was like 7 years old, I had sat down with my grandparents and asked them, so why do you guys sleep in separate bedrooms? There was always this curiosity that I was wondering about how different relationships work. And then my parents got divorced when I was 14, 15, and I'm an only child. And so that totally derailed everything. As I looked back, I recognized that divorce was the best thing that ever happened to my father and my relationship. I guarantee we would not have the relationship we have today had that not happened, which is a very complex thing, because I wish my parents were still married, even at the age I'm at today. But I recognized that there was a gift in there. And then I went on and got married early, at like 25. In my eyes, that's early. And then got divorced when I was 31. So it was, having gone through that, I said I would never go through that. And then there I was going through it, which was devastating. It was more devastating than going through it as a teenager. And that's a very devastating time. And I was at a silent meditation retreat at this place called Spirit Rock for 16 days, just wondering what I was doing with my life, where I was going. And it was literally like a bolt of lightning just came down through my skull. It was like, you're going to go to grad school. You're going to become a therapist. And at that point, I had the idea that I was going to help people avoid ever getting divorced. Like, it was so painful. I wanted to help people avoid that pain. And that, I think that still is true inside of me to an extent, but I really also understand the value of being able to get divorced. And if it's just absolutely not working, or if one person isn't working on it. But my life mission is to help people break these generational patterns that they saw modeled for themselves in their families of origin, that they bring into their marriage and to now their families that they're creating, and do it differently. Wake up to the patterns and then choose different behaviors. And when people do that, I get goosebumps. I think it's the best thing people could possibly do. And I realized a little bit ago that the people who are my clients aren't the mothers and fathers or the husband and wife that I'm working with, but it's their kids. Those kids are the people who I work for. And because I want those kids to have a different way of relating to their spouses, their friends, their family as they age. And that starts with us.
Yeah, that's powerful. I couldn't agree more. I think, I don't know if I'm saying it in this variation of the podcast intro or it was the last one, but at one point I said this show isn't just for the fathers, it's for the wives and the children and the generations to come, because we are setting our kids, like our relationships are their first classroom on marriage. Like that's so critical. And this is where they learn everything about how to love one another, what healthy relationship looks like. So yes, I love that, and what a noble vision and reason to start this. Love that. And also, I will say this: I told her right off the get-go, for you listening, I want to talk about sex today. We're going to get there. So if you listen to this and you're not having enough sex, or you're wondering why maybe your wife's not interested in sex anymore, we're going to get there. All right. So hold tight. It's going to be awesome, because that's what drew me to her in the first place, was her YouTube video on this. So we're going to get there, but I love this question that came across from I believe it was your PR rep, but the question was this: what high achievers get wrong about their relationships, and why success at work doesn't translate the way they think it does. Now we talk about this a little bit on the show, and I have my own perspective and teach my own sort of thoughts on this. But I do love to hear different nuances and different perspectives, and from your perspective as a educated, and then like a clinical professional in marriage therapy and family therapy and all these different things, and also being a woman yourself.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about that. What is it that high achievers get wrong about their relationships, and why is it that success in the workplace doesn't translate at home the way we think it should?
It's such a good question. I think one of the things that we get at work is there's really concrete ways we get evaluated. We get the promotion, we make the sales goal, we negotiate the contract, we're creating a new product. Like, there's really concrete, achievable goals that we do in our careers. And we get all this accolades. We get finances, we get promotions, we get people, really responding to us, respecting us. We get seen as a leader in our companies. And then we go home and none of that is there, right? We've forgotten to take out the trash and they've asked us to do it. We've left the toilet seat up one more time. You buy the wrong chicken. I mean, there's always something that you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Always, right? And so where's the promotion? Where's that, like, oh my God, you're amazing? Where's that, we're going to give you more money. Like, I can't believe you beat these sales goals, right? Like, that doesn't happen as frequently at home as we, as many people want it to. I mean, it's not just men, it's women as well. And I think women also fall into that pattern of, I get all these accolades at work, but none of them at home. I think a big piece of it comes down to that appreciation. And it's tricky. A dynamic that's tricky is when it is, when the man is the primary breadwinner and the woman is a stay-at-home mom, because there's this expectation like, oh, I'm doing all of the work, all of the labor, bringing in all of the money that's making our family survive. And you're just here taking care of our kids. You're able to go play pickleball during the day and go grocery shopping and, make beds and do laundry. And then
Do
it
what
gets
you want.
exasperated. Yeah, do what you want. Go get a manicure. And so those dynamics get really, really wonky in there. I have this free resource on my website. It's called the Relationship Review. And how I think about it is once a year, sitting down with your spouse and going through this review. And it's kind of like kind of the review you would get at work, performance review. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what are the things that I've done well this year? What are the things you've done well? What are the things we've done well together? What are the things where I've dropped the ball? What are the things that you've dropped the ball? What do we want to create in this next year? And it is such a powerful tool to bring things forward that you're silently simmering on. It's also a great way to say, like, I love how you are with our children. I love the relationship you've created with them. Or I can't tell you how much it means to me when you bring me coffee in bed, right? So it forces you to re-look at your partner and what they're doing, and give each other feedback. I gave my husband feedback. This was a number of years ago. We were in a big drought, but I was like, I know you say if it's yellow, let it mellow, but that doesn't work for me. So we need some attention to the toilet hygiene. And it was, it was sort of funny, but it was something that was like irritating me.
Yeah.
And, he was awesome about it, received that feedback super well, but it is something he'll tease me about sometimes. But it's when you have those kind of conversations, it begins to shift how you show up at home, recognizing that there's ways that you're doing things wrong and doing things right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, couldn't agree more. And it's so cool how you communicated that. I mean, here on the podcast, we talk obviously a lot about from the man's perspective, but, I'll often say this, men's two big needs of men is to feel competent and to feel respected. Right.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about the woman's needs as well, certainly, but in the context of men, and that you're exactly right. Men go to work all day, and women do too, of course. But in the context of the man, especially like you said, in the traditional sense, we go to work and then we get paid and paid well to create solutions, to strategize, to all those different things, and we get recognized. It's very tangible. It's like, oh, I got this performance bonus because I did this. I closed this contract. I got this promotion. I got this fill in the blank, this attaboy. The boss called me in the office. He said, good job. And I get this respect from my colleagues and my coworkers, and I'm great at what I do, and I feel really competent, and it's amazing, and my bucket is over full at work, and I think about it all the time, and I do so good. But when I come home, where is it? So you track your numbers in business, your revenue, your performance, KPIs, and you know exactly where you stand. But let me ask you this: do you know the score in your marriage, or are you just hoping it's fine? Because you know what? Most men have no idea. They don't check until something breaks, until the distance is obvious, until the tension turns into silence, until the word separation enters the conversation. And by then, they're playing catch up. And that's exactly why I built the High Performance Husband Audit. It's a free 2-minute diagnostic designed specifically for driven men like you to give you a clear, honest read on where your marriage actually stands. No fluff, no therapy talk, just 10 strategic multiple choice questions, a clear category, and a proven system to help you fix what's off before it becomes something bigger. Because if you're disciplined enough to track your business, you should be disciplined enough to lead your home. So go to the link in the show notes and take the High Performance Husband Audit today. Get your score, get your plan, and start leading where it matters most. All right, let's get back to the episode. But when I come home, where is it? Where is the respect?
And then you come home and you're like, oh, my work is so important. I have to be on my laptop. And you're not there. You're on your phone. Yeah. You're at the playground and all you're doing is on your phone. You're not looking at your kid going down the slide or if they fell off the swing, right? You're not there. But you're at work. And we have this amazing ability to work anywhere, whenever, which is there's benefits and drawbacks. But then the wife is over there being like, hello, like you're with your family. This is our time. Like put that device away. Be here with us now. And that's a really hard thing to do, especially with the pressure. And where I see couples have a ton of problems is when that spouse, that husband starts having difficulties at work. Maybe they're not making their sales goals. So their confidence is impacted so significantly. And then, so when we don't feel good about ourselves, we're not kind to others. We're not reaching out. We're not even sharing how we're scared. We're going into that like hiding position, which then cuts off connection. So your spouse is there as a resource to you, but because it's such an uncomfortable feeling of not being the high achiever, we push each other away. We push and push away because I don't want to be seen. There's so much shame and embarrassment and fear.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was my story. I was let go of a senior leadership position. I was in part of one of the fastest growing organizations in the country and got let go. And my life spiraled. My identity was wrapped up in what I did. And before you know it, within a few months, my life was falling apart, right? And so that was huge, and I think it's so interesting because, when we talk about, I talk with a lot of men about helping them understand the needs of their wife, right? So we get these high achieving men, and, a wife needs to feel seen. She needs to feel heard. She needs to feel safe. We could split that down. I mean, I teach often on those 3 core needs and how you can meet them in the different ways. Like, for example, safety. It's not just physical safety, but emotional safety, especially emotional safety, relational safety, financial safety, and all these different ways. But what happens is we come home from work, we're not thinking about how to make our wife feel seen, heard, and safe. And she shares something a struggle she had, and we start shoving a strategy down her throat. And then she's like, I don't want to hear that. But then what do you feel? You feel incompetent, or perhaps even, disrespected or something, because here I am doing what I do so well all day, giving you a solution and get paid well for it. And then you're mad at me for that? This is how, so then what happens is the man becomes less loving, right? He sees her less, he hears her less. And she doesn't feel safe, opening up emotionally. And before you know it, she finds those emotional needs to be met somewhere else, usually in the kids.
And that's when people stop having sex.
Exactly. That's when people stop having sex. And that's why men end up going back to work, because that's where they feel comfortable. Andrea, I've had clients call me 10 o'clock at night, or text me and be like, I'm still at work and everyone's gone. I'm sitting in a dark office, but I am more comfortable in this empty, building than I am at home with my own family. Why is that? Why do I not want to go home? And so there's so much to unpack here, but I love that you went there, because I think that's so critical for us to understand is we're just wired so differently. But if a couple can just simply have those conversations, when my wife started thinking about ways to communicate respect and to communicate competence, and when I learned how to think about how can I make her feel more seen, more heard, and more safe in this home, and everything changed. Everything changed.
I've got a quick little tool that I can offer.
Please.
That when you go home from work and your wife starts telling you something, a problem, it's something that came up, you can ask a really simple question. Is this something you want me to problem solve, or is this just something you want me to listen to?
Yes.
And when you know what is required of you in that moment, then you get to do it, and you can do it really well. And it doesn't matter what it is she's upset about, crying about, screaming about. If you know your only job is to listen, you're like, I'm getting an A+ right now. I'll get that promotion. I'll get that star. But if she says, I actually really need you to problem solve with me, then you get to do this thing that comes so naturally. The listening part, I think, feels really difficult because you have to sit with your own feelings of powerlessness, I think, is the biggest one.
Oh, yeah. Is it ever?
And the illogicalness of things. That's not logical. I hear that all the time. Andrea, it's not logical what she's saying. She knows I love her. It's not logical that she doesn't think I love her, right?
Yeah, men bring logic to an emotional conversation, and women bring emotion to a person who wants to have a conversation about logic, and they're like oil and water; they just don't mix, and like no wonder, right? So, yeah, if I had $1 for every time I heard a guy say, "Man, my wife just like it feels like she's crazy," like I'm trying to rationalize with her when she's mad, and she's like bringing all these like she's not making sense, But then I might talk to the wife, and she's like, all he wants to do is fix everything. And it's just so funny, right? Like how we're wired. But when you understand that, you have the tools to fix it. It's so good. This has been great. I knew I'd love talking to you. I love you talked a little bit about these irritations, these moments these little things that bother us. When I was I'll never forget this. When I was 12, 13, I had this bad habit of kicking my socks off when I'd come home, and they would just land wherever they landed. And usually they landed underneath the coffee table, because I'd sit down and watch TV on the couch, or sit on the couch and watch TV, and then I'd kick my socks off, and they'd end up underneath the table. And one day, my mom came in, and she was so pissed. And she bent over and grabbed the socks out from underneath the coffee table, and she looked at me and like shook the socks in the air. She was like, "Mitchell, you need to learn how to pick up these socks." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, fine, Mom, I will." She's like, "No, this is the stuff that causes divorces." And I remember thinking like, "Wow, Mom, that's intense." And sure enough, when we got married, my wife would lose it because I didn't change that behavior. And I had this light bulb moment of like, oh, when I started to understand my wife's needs, I'm like, oh, I see why this is so, so it's so funny. But as couples, we do have so many of these things that are uncommunicated, right? And I think especially as men, and this is where I'd love to hear your perspective, as men, sometimes we feel like we don't necessarily know how to say things the right way. We're not always the most emotionally intelligent or emotionally in tune. And so this idea of having conversations that you've been putting off for a while, having conversations like this, if you could give us a real quick roadmap of like, number one, why do we have to have those conversations, right? What's it going to cost me if I don't? Because I hear a lot of guys say, I'm just going to eat it. I'm just going to bite it and whatever. It'll go away, right? Happy wife, happy life. Shove it down. How do we have
them?
Yeah.
We have to have them, because when we don't, we are denying intimacy. We are cutting off intimacy. We're cutting off connection. And if we don't share those inside thoughts with our partner, even if they're unpleasant, we're just cutting off intimacy. We're not letting our partners know us on that really core intimate level. Mm-hmm. And when we start doing that, we create distance, and we start moving further and further away from each other. And when a partner goes to the other and says, "Hey, I'm irritated about the socks being left underneath the kitchen table, the coffee table," the partner who's on the receiving end actually goes like, "Oh, my partner's giving me a bid for connection. My partner's actually letting me know something about them that's personal to them. Yeah, it's about me and my socks, but this is an issue for her or for him." Mm. And so when you look at it like, oh, they're not trying to control me, they're actually wanting to be in relationship with me and create a sense of intimacy. So when you get that, you can say like, oh, I didn't know my socks did that. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for sharing that with me. My mom said that to me too. I just didn't listen to her, but I appreciate you bringing it back up. I'm going to make a really concerted effort to putting my socks in the hamper. But I'm open for you to say, "Hey, socks," and that's just an indication like, right. I've kind of gone to sleep there. But when it's like a bigger conversation, right? Like a sock conversation can be a really big conversation. But not to minimize it, because it really can be. But when it's a bigger conversation and you're actually nervous about it, something that you're worried about that feels like, how in the world am I going to talk about this? I always say to them, "Hey, I've got something I got to talk about, and I'm nervous, and I feel like I don't even know where to start, but maybe I can just have you listen and let me kind of wander through this, and then we can kind of talk it through a little bit more." But if you state up front what's happening on this emotional level, it's so much easier to bring that forward. And then, Brene Brown, she has this great phrase that I feel like every couple should use. So when there's something like that, and say it's about your spouse, like, hey, I've been telling myself a story that you don't like me, you don't love me, and you don't respect me because you leave your socks underneath the table. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I've been telling myself the story, and I need to check this out with you. I need to check out what's happening on your side, that you don't seem to pay attention to how upsetting it is when you leave your socks here for me. When you put it as a story, I think as the receiver of that, you don't necessarily have to take it so personally as if you are the worst person, Mitchell. I cannot believe how irresponsible you are. You're so neglectful. You don't care about me, right? You could hear it that way. But if you're like, oh, my wife is telling me a story that I don't love her, that I don't respect her, that I don't care about her. Well, that story is, a fairy tale. It's not true. That's not true for me. So let me get curious what's happening on her end. But I think the most important piece when you're starting those conversations is to, as best as you can, be as curious as possible. And not like, why? But let me understand this more. Let me see if I'm getting what you're saying. Can you explain a little bit more deeply what's so upsetting for you? Or can you tell me some of the stories you're telling yourself about this? It's that curiosity that bridges so many gaps. It makes the other person feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. The story I'm telling myself, that's so funny. I feel like we're in the same circles. We talk about that so often here. And a lot of my clients have taught them that framework too by Brene Brown, because it's brilliant. It's a way of sort of externalizing and getting yourself out of the situation and communicating sort of that way in a way that helps the person understand the impact that it has on them versus, making it like a personal attack. And I'll often use it like when someone says, if you're in a situation and when your wife says something to you, and a classic one, it's like, all you care about is work. You never spend time with us. Why don't you help me around the house? And, having that conversation with your wife and saying, the story I'm telling myself when you say that. And I sometimes will use it on the inverse, the person feeling like they're offended, being like, the story I'm telling myself is that you think that I'm a bad husband, that I'm not a good dad, that I don't love you guys. Is that story true? And then it's like you're interpreting the words that you heard or what you felt versus the words that you said. And every time, it comes back, it's like, no, that's not what I meant at all. Like, I just love having you around,
I miss you.
I miss you, right? The kids miss you. And so it disarms
not really
them.
Here.
Exactly. It disarms the whole conversation. Another thing I would add, as a man, and I know this episode is not about me, it's about asking you questions, but I'd be interested to hear what you think, is I think from a man's perspective, I think we're afraid to start a conversation with that kind of vulnerability, because if we do, we think that if we do, number one, either one, she will think that we're weak. She'll think that I'm weak because I'm being soft, that I'm saying like, I might get this wrong. Or two, she might weaponize that and use it against me, right? And so we as men wrestle just with the idea of being weak, But you're so right. This was a big learning point for me years ago. It was like starting a conversation by just saying, "Hey, babe, I might get this wrong. I might say this the wrong way. I don't know how to say it, but could you just give me some grace while I try and fumble these words out?" Modeling with that vulnerability softens her heart and prepares her to hear whatever it is I'm going to say. And if I do get it wrong, which most of the time I do, she's prepared to hear it, right? But it's so hard for men to get to that point and to practice that vulnerability because of what we think they might respond, how we think they might respond. Do you see that as well? Would you agree with that?
100%. I think people are just so afraid of big feelings, of getting hurt, of doing it wrong. And it's even like the starting is the hardest part. Once somebody starts, then things seem to move a little bit. And I always suggest couples either have those conversations when they're in the car and they're on a long drive, or go for a walk after dinner. Even if you've got small kids and you're pushing them in the stroller, be moving your bodies and being side by side. It changes your whole nervous system, especially the part being outside, because you're able to. There's a lot of space. You don't feel so closed in and captured. But the other thing is, when you're having these conversations, if you can be the observer, almost taking yourself out and looking down at these two wonderful people who love each other, who've got these great kids, this great family, this great home, all these friends, and they're just really disconnected, right? It makes your heart so much softer. It's not so like, you don't love me or I don't love you. It's like, oh God, I love those two. They love each other so much and they're struggling. And when you can see it from that perspective, if you were God looking down, your heart would just be so full for these two people who love each other and are struggling. And if you can take that perspective, then you don't get defensive. Then you don't get attacking. Then you start really being really curious and open-minded around, like, look at this dance we do. I gave that homework to one of my, they were two sisters. And I said, like, you guys actually have a dance that you do. And it's a beautiful dance. It's like a ballet. And so when you're doing the dance, just name it. Like, oh, we're here doing our dance. I'm doing this and you're doing that. And when you can, and then you don't, it's not so personal. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It really does look like you're watching a performance.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. So funny. This is related, but just kind of hilarious. We were friends with a French couple, and their whole method when they feel like the heat rising and they feel someone's getting tense and they feel like about to get into a fight, one of them just gets naked.
I love
one of them
it.
just gets naked and they do a cartwheel, and it's like that's just how they break the tension. And so they have an agreement between the both of them. It's like, if we feel like one of us is going to blow up, the other person has to get naked and do a cartwheel. As like, you cannot fight with your spouse when they're naked doing a cartwheel in your living room, right? It was so hilarious.
Oh my God.
But they're like,
I'm
hey, it
going
works
to have
every
to
time.
try it just to see if that works. I mean, it gets a little tricky when you have teenagers, right? Yeah. And they're like, what the f*** is mom doing? Naked doing a cartwheel in the kitchen.
So funny.
But that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. And
And what's interesting about it too is, like, when you get naked, you're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we're avoiding in these hard conversations, is being vulnerable. That's why they're so difficult, because we're like, oh, I don't want to be vulnerable. But when you get naked and then doing a cartwheel with, your body flying all over the place, I mean, it's genius. Tell them I love that. Tell them I love it.
I will. You can use it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the 5 practical ways, that YouTube video that I referenced at the beginning, because this is something I hear often is, I get respected at work, like we were talking about earlier. I feel competent, like I'm at the top of my game. People are attracted to me. I'm a charismatic man. Often these men, women, and in the workplace find them attractive. And so there's this competition that almost comes up, and we, a lot of guys have helped in the past have had physical affairs, emotional affairs, whatever, because they feel they're so attractive outside the home. And I don't mean always just physically. I mean emotionally, lots of different ways. But when they come home, they don't feel that. And in fact, it's almost as though their wife is not interested at all. And it's like, and then that hunger, that satiation is like there, and it doesn't get met. And so that's a common struggle. And why doesn't my wife want to have sex? Why is it that it seems like other people would be more than happy to? I'm in this position of power or whatever. You talk about 5 practical ways to bring her back. Can you unpack, I guess, number 1, why does that happen? And then how we can sort of have that conversation about turning it around. Listen, brother, you didn't stand at the altar thinking, one day we'll just coexist. But somewhere along the way, you became roommates. Not because you don't love her, not because you don't care, but let's be real, life got busy. Work picked up, kids needed you, stress crept in, and slowly, without even realizing it, The conversations got shorter. The laughter got quieter. The connection got weaker. And now it's logistics, schedules, passing each other in the hallway. And deep down, you know, this isn't what you wanted. But here's the good news. You don't need a massive overhaul to fix this. You just need to start creating connection again, and on purpose. And that's exactly why I created the Roommate Remedy. It's a free guide with 113 simple, practical ways to break the routine and bring the fun, the spark, and the energy you used to have back to your relationship. There's no pressure, no perfection, just small intentional moments that remind you why you chose each other in the first place. So if you're ready to stop coexisting and start actually enjoying your marriage again, head to the link in the show notes and then download the Roommate Remedy for free, my friend. Let's get back into the episode. You talk about 5 practical ways to bring her back. Can you unpack, I guess, number 1, why does that happen? And then how we can sort of have that conversation about turning it around.
Well, I think, when we have, when people turn to affairs, there's conversations that they're not willing to have. So, I don't feel loved. I don't feel valued. I don't feel respected. I don't feel appreciated. But this hot wine over here is like, you are amazing. And right, like, look at how handsome you are, right? Like, and you're not hearing that at home. Well, the conversation that needs to take place is to have that conversation at home. Like, I don't feel attractive to you. And I'm feeling really lonely in our marriage. And a great way, like back to the car scenario, is when you're in the car, you can just say, it's important to have, like when you're talking about sex with your spouse, especially if there's a big gulf between the two people, you want to have that conversation in a way that you're not implying like, we need to have sex now. Yeah. There's something, there's no demand on this moment here. It's a conversation around the dance we're doing is avoiding sex. We're avoiding that physical intimacy, that sexual intimacy. And so when you do it in a car, again, side by side, so you don't have to look at each other, you don't have that pressure, you could easily say, sweetheart, I'm really missing having sex with you. I love you so much, and it's been such a long time since we've had sex. Do you miss it? And the spouse may say like, no, I don't miss it. And then, that's the worst case scenario. Oftentimes they'll say, yeah, I really miss that too. And then it's like, well, how do we get back onto that page? But first having that conversation, asking, saying like, hey, I miss this. And then asking, do you miss it too? Opens up a dialogue. And it's like, and if it's like, no, I don't miss it, then you get to go like, interesting. Tell me what's happening for you on a physical, hormonal, mental level that sex isn't even in the cards. And it might be, I had this woman say to me last week, she said to her husband, they're in the middle of sex, and she's like, I am too exhausted to orgasm. I was just dying when she said that. I'm like, you really said that? She really said that. But so in that scenario, like, I'm just too tired. I am just, especially when you have small kids, right? Like you guys are getting ready to go into a very interesting time of parenting where the exhaustion is profound. Kids get sick, all of the things. So on that first level, it's like, oh no, I'm not interested. What's going on for you? Well, I'm exhausted. And then you'll hear a little bit of you'll hear something sharp in that, right? Like, I'm exhausted, meaning you're not helping me enough with these kids. So I'm not putting out. And if you think about it as putting out, you're already kind of on the wrong page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it's not something that you're giving, it's something that you're creating together. But so it's first that question, like, hey, or that statement, like, I'm really missing our sexual life. I'm really missing being intimate with you. How are you? Are you feeling it? And then you hear what's going on and you're like, okay, you're feeling really tired. Is there a time of day when you feel less tired? No, I could sleep for an entire week straight and I would be tired. And you're like, okay, well, let's see how we can get you some more sleep. In this case, I've had, my husband did this when my kids were young, and it was like maybe the biggest gift he ever could have given me, but was to say like, okay, I'm going to take both kids and we're going to go to Colorado to your parents for a long weekend because my parents want to see the kids. They're really helpful. My husband has a great relationship with them, but I get an entire weekend where there's nobody asking me for anything, talking to me, and I can do my yoga. I can eat what I want. Right. And so it's this place of like not having any plugs plugged into me. Many husbands feel uncomfortable being on their own with their 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids on their own. But your wife is doing it multiple times a week, multiple times a day. And so when you start recognizing like, oh, that might be a muscle that I want to start exercising, and to see if I start exercising that muscle, what happens on her side, right? If there's less plugs plugging into you, there's more capacity to be in connection. So like that's one of the first ones. Then the other one is like start making eye contact with her. Just like you've had that initial conversation. Then you start making eye contact with her. You start noticing when you talk to her, you're really in her eyes and noticing the colors, the shapes, and really seeing who that person is. When she's talking to you, you're listening and you're really connecting deeply. And that eye contact creates oxytocin in your body. And that hormone is the connection hormone. That's what gets released when you orgasm. And so when you're doing that, it makes the other person feel closer to you. They feel heard, they feel seen, they feel important. Then I love to say, like, find really specific things that you can compliment your partner on. Like and unusual ones, right? Like, oh, I love that toenail polish color. Or, how you handled that tantrum was so skillful. I wish I could do that. Tell me how you did that. Or I love how you were joking around with your dad on the phone. That relationship is so awesome that you have with him. Or the kitchen looks amazing. Like, did you just like it looks so clean, right? You find like something specific and really nourishing, and letting your partner know that you see her, really, really see her, and then you start playing. Whether it's dancing naked, doing cartwheels, or, just putting on some 50s music and like doing the twist and being silly and doing it with your kids. One of the things that I find that actually makes moms soften is when they see their husband creating a really, true relationship with the kids, that they're really engaged with them, interested in who they are. It relieves some of the pressure from the mom, but then it also gives her an opportunity to admire and value and praise this behavior, right? It's like, oh, I love that you just sat down and worked on Legos for 2 hours together and we're joking and laughing. So it's, these little things that you start doing that bring that connection back up. And then my favorite thing to tell couples is practice sexy logistics. It's like you get in bed, you get naked. Sex is not guaranteed, but it's on the table. And you just ask your wife to dump out every single thing she's talking about. All of the things she's been thinking about lately, all the things she's worrying about, all the things she's planning for, all the things she wants to talk to you about. Just dump all of it. And I'll keep like a notepad next to my bed. I can take notes if necessary. But all I really want to do is listen to you. I want to hear everything you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And then that relaxes. That relaxes a mom like you can't even imagine. And then it's like, hey, well, do you mind if we just start kissing a little, right? And it's just these small little ways. You wouldn't just jump to having sex. Especially if it's been a long time, you're trying to re-find that connection, that younger, playful side of you. And it just takes like an ongoing process. And it's not like a one and done and then we're good. This is like an ongoing, intimate dance that you need to be doing every day, multiple times a day. It could be sending her a sweet text from a song. I love like when my husband will send me a song, I heard the song and I was thinking of you. Right? It's like, it's like when you would make mixtapes as, when you're a kid, or mix CDs or song playlists, right? It's, you love me, you care about me. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that starts shifting that dynamic.
You call it practice. You say practice sexy logistics.
Sexy logistics, yes.
I love that. That's so good, Andrea. So if you just in a quick summary for you listening, number one, making conversation, having a conversation about what's going on, asking the question about sex. Hey, I've really been missing having sex. Do you too? Opening that up, making eye contact. It's huge. I couldn't agree more. Huge. Giving someone a specific compliment, something that's out of the blue, not just like, hey, good job with the kids. Like that's so generic and vanilla. Like make it specific. Start playing, right? Be more playful. And as men, I think a lot of us wrestle with this because we think that that just stops when you become a man. And even I wrestled with that for a while. I was like, am I supposed to have fun? It's not my job to have fun. You know what I mean? Like that's like that play is for kids. Because I know, a lot of men listening to this might think the same way. And it's like, man, when was the last time you were silly? Right? Yeah. Like that's so important. Recreation, leisure, fun. And then the last one, practicing sexy logistics. I love that. And what's interesting, Andrea, is a lot of times people, you hear this all the time. Let's just do the things you did when you're dating. Just do the things you're doing when you dated. But like it's such a generic thing. But let's look at the list. Conversation, right? You talked, you were open about everything. You shared your feelings. Eye contact. Ugh, you constantly staring at each other, the googly eyes, right? But
you think the arm hairs are like so gorgeous, right? In the beginning.
Totally. The specific compliments, like you said, I remember getting lost in my wife's eyes, being playful, the dates, the elaborate dates and the things she had planned to do. It was amazing. The sexy logistics. Like, I just think all these things are things that you're doing when you're pursuing one another. Right. So it's so good, but it's so valuable to like spit it out in that list. I think that's incredible. So good. Last question, most important question. If there's men listening to you today and would be like, man, I love the way she communicates. I love her nuances and different things like that. I'd love to get more from her, or perhaps work with her, or whatever. Where is the best place they could find you?
The best place is probably on my website, and it's ANDREA'Dindinger.com, just my whole name together. But you can search that on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. And each week I send out a free weekly newsletter about all of these topics. There's nothing I don't really cover, and you can find that on Substack. And it's just, I'm not fluffy. I speak directly. So many of my people make fun of me, like, oh, is it sexy logistics night? I'm like, you got to have one night a week that you're downloading all of the crap in your mind and letting your bodies reconnect. Our heads get so much in our way when we're trying to create intimacy and emotional and physical intimacy.
Yeah, it's true. Well, check out her website. And then we mentioned I think it was that relationship quiz or
review.
What was it? A review. Yeah. Relationship review. Those links will be in the show notes. So whether you're listening on audio or you're watching on YouTube, hit the details and you will find those links to connect with her. And listen, Andrea, thank you. This has been a fantastic episode. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much, Mitch. I've had a blast.
Thank you for tuning into the Dad Nation podcast today. Listen, if today's conversation challenged you, if it encouraged you or helped you level up in any area of your life, would you do me a favor? Take 60 seconds to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're listening on. This helps us reach more men who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Dad Nation YouTube channel, where you're going to find full episodes, clips, and exclusive content designed to help you win at home just like you do at work. Remember, your family does not need perfection. They need your presence. Your leadership matters. So keep showing up, keep leveling up, and never forget, when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. We'll see you next time.